There are graphic images and there's a video in here too, okay? So be prepared. I'll try to warn you of the really graphic things as they come up before they do if anyone wants to close their eyes. Mackenzie? Okay, so you don't get nightmares, honey? Okay, so as I was digging around for quotes, because I love to put quotes in my presentations, this one, you know how sometimes when you're drifting off to sleep and you feel that jolt like you're falling and you caught yourself at the last second? It's nothing to be concerned about. It's usually just the parasite adjusting its grip. So this really hit home with me because your dreams can actually be a symptom of something that's going on with your physical body. Okay, so just know that might not be too far off from the truth. Okay, so I thought this was cute. What kinds of openings do you have? Parasite job hunting, right? So parasites eating away at your life. It's estimated that 80% of Americans are infected with parasites. And so how many in this group are doing the parasite detox right now? Raise your hands if you're doing it right now. Okay, so we got 3 people. And did all 3 of you eliminate parasites? Yes. Every single person in that group, which I think there's 25 people in that group that started this last parasite, has eliminated parasites full on in their stool. Okay, so in this presentation, I'm focusing on intestinal parasites and not bacteria or viruses. Okay, so bacteria are different than parasite. Most of us have been infected for years and have had no serious health conditions resulting, right? Serious. But we've had these low underlying issues. Some people think that we can live at one with our parasites. I don't believe that. I'm not one of those people, okay? I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, bacteria are not parasites. First, we're gonna explain bacteria versus parasites. Bacteria are ubiquitous and mostly free-living organisms, often consisting of one biological cell. They constitute a large domain of microorganisms. Bacteria were among the first life forms to appear on Earth and are present in most of its habitats. So there's this theory that your mitochondria inside your cell are actually bacteria that you inherit from your mother. So they don't really know what the mitochondria is, but the mitochondria is inside the cell nucleus, and it's what makes your ATP, it makes your energy, right? So they believe that that is actually bacteria. So we are actually, bacteria outnumber our cells in our body 10 to 1. So we are more bacteria than we are cells. Okay, so bacteria, we need to have bacteria. Now there's bacteria that are bad, right? That can get out of check in our body, like candida, or bad bacteria like E. coli, right? That can make us sick. But most of the bacteria around us, we have to have. They make up our body. So in stark contrast, parasites are organisms that live in or on another organism or different species, the host, and benefit by driving nutrients at the other's expense. While some symbiotic relationships of parasites exist in nature, they are generally to the benefit of the parasite and the detriment of the host. So the ones that exist in nature are the ones of fish that have high mercury levels in their body, because parasites actually eat heavy metals, which is a weird phenomena, right? Some people say, oh no, they don't eat the heavy metals, but actually they eat the heavy metals in the body. So a lot of times when people have parasites, it's because they also have heavy metal toxicity. Heavy metals also create dead or dying tissue in your body, and parasites love dead and dying tissue, so they'll go eat that area, right? Kind of like scar tissue. Common symptoms of parasites. IBS symptoms such as constipation, gas, bloating, and diarrhea. Isn't that about 90% of the population, right? Increased appetite and food cravings, such as sugar. Chronic fatigue, lethargy, or apathy. Restless and disturbed sleep. Allergies and food or seasonal, so both of them. Teeth grinding and clenching, that's a big one. You guys have heard me ask you that in my visits with you at the first visit. Do you grind your teeth or clench your jaw? Bad mood and negativity. Joint pain and back pain. Itchy ears, nose, or anus. That's another one I ask because that's a big sign as well. Nervousness or anxiety. Various skin issues. Vision problems, excess weight, forgetfulness, and anemia. These are pretty common symptoms. And these are uncommon. These are some of the other ones I see in my office that are pretty frequent. So feeling abused by others, right? You're feeling like somebody's always taking advantage of you. Swollen lymph nodes, that can be one. So like the spleen point, you guys all know that little spot down here that hurts all the time on you, right? So that's a lymphatic gland. Organ raises under the skin, so little bumps, cysts, right? Fingernail biting fingernails, that nervous thing. Sleepwalking and nose picking. So think of kids too. Okay, our first guy for the night, pinworms. Okay, so these are the ones typically that little kids will get and poop out, is the little pinworms, and you can see them usually live in the stool. Sometimes stay at the anus or rectum, laying eggs and causing itchiness. When they itch, they transmit, so orally. So if little kids get them and they itch their anus or whatever, they don't wash their hands in the mouth, that's how the cycle happens again. Okay. They can survive in clothing, bedding, and other objects. They can affect any age, but most common in children. Small, thin, and white. They're about 1/2 inch long. Okay, so next up is the common tapeworm, also known as the pork tapeworm. Okay, this one, so has anyone felt like they eliminated a tapeworm at all? Mostly ropeworms. Anne? No? Not a tapeworm. So Alex up in Wausau, my sister-in-law, she first started doing this, and she was seeing really quick results, and that's how I got into it so quickly too and started getting everybody on it, because her clients were seeing immediate results. She had a gal, she said, that was about my size and eliminated a 3-foot long tapeworm. She had to pull it out of her. Okay, so these ones really you can eliminate. These are pretty common. They're called the pork tapeworm because they're found in pork. Okay, I did a post in the Facebook group talking about how pigs are really prone to parasites, and almost all of them are infected with parasites. So it uses the hooks on its head to attach to the host. So this picture, just want to show Rhonda because she's here. That's the head of a tapeworm. Even though that's kind of a cartoon image, that is actually what it looks like. It's passed through contaminated pork and beef and can live inside you for 30 years and grow up to 80 feet long. Roundworms. So these live in the intestinal tract where it will lay eggs and enter the bloodstream. So these guys go all over. There are 3 kinds of roundworms. One of the 3 types causes elephantiasis. So you know that disease where they get really big legs and really puffy. So one of the 3 types causes that. It's passed through mosquitoes, food, and poor sanitary conditions. They can grow over 1 foot long. Flatworm or liver flukes. This is a big one, you guys, because a lot of people don't know that this is a parasite, right? But it is. And it will go in your liver and can cause liver damage and liver disease. So when we were kids on the farm growing up, we would get the cow liver out when we would butcher the cows. We would take the liver out, and my grandpa always knew, oh, that one had flukes, because the flukes would be in the liver. If you cut it open, there would be flukes in the liver. But they look kind of like little large pieces of undigested corn or fleshy meat. It looks like a piece of undigested meat. But this is what they look like. They're passed through contaminated water or undercooked freshwater fish. Okay, so I know here in Wisconsin we eat a lot of freshwater fish and swim in the river. That's probably full of them. It cannot be passed from one person to another. It can make its way into the tissues, but is commonly found in the liver and gallbladder, where it can cause liver disease. They range in size from 8 to 15 millimeters long, and they're about the size of a dime. So this is a bunch of liver flukes. So that's a dime there in the center. You can see the size. So that's about the size that they are, but they come in kind of weird different shapes too, okay? So you guys will watch like National Geographic, all the weird stuff in the world. So just remember that it can exist in our body too. Whipworm, these guys are kind of weird. So they live in the large intestine, and they're passed through unwashed fruits and vegetables, feces, and soil. They're very common, and you have mild infection, so you don't usually carry any symptoms when you have them. Severe infections can cause anemia and painful passage of stools, and they tend to be 1 to 2 inches long. So there's real, someone eliminated whipworms. Okay, so you can see the little whip at the end. Hookworms. So this is the progression, July 4th to July 11th of the hookworm, right? So this guy was basically walking around somewhere tropical and got it on his foot, and then it just goes right in. When inside, they attach to the body with their teeth and consume the host's blood. Acquired through contaminated water, fruits, and vegetables, they typically live in the intestinal tract but can travel to other locations and cause skin issues and anemia. So you can get them intestinally, or you can get them like this. Ropeworms, the most controversial of them all. This is kind of why you guys are here tonight. This is the very important part of the presentation. So this is ropeworms, and this is what they look like. Almost all the clients that have eliminated ropeworms. They were first discovered by Dr. Gubarev, and he lives in Russia. The reason that is there is because I could not find a picture of him anywhere. I dug and dug and dug and could not find a picture. He wrote a book. So he discovered ropeworms in the 90s through colonic. He wrote the book in 2009, Helminths, Known and Unknown. Helminths are parasites. It's another word for parasite. He holds 3 patents on types of treatments for ropeworms, and he's awaiting his 4th. He was the first one to discover. So this is Professor Alex VOLINSKY, and he lives in Florida, and he's an inquisitive engineer. He's an engineer and electromicroscopist. His wife and mother-in-law are both medical doctors, so he knows some stuff. He's a pretty smart guy. So he did a 17-day water fast, and he was passing long strings of mucus and thick, like he was basically passing ropeworms. And he was also doing colonics and passing them as well. And then he passed one that was moving in the toilet. And so he got really interested in this. What kind of parasite is this? So he got on one of the fasting forums and he started digging around, and somebody introduced him to Dr. Gubarev's work. He calls Dr. Gubarev and was like, hey, what's going on with this, ropeworm I hear you're studying? So they start talking and really trying to figure stuff out. And they came together with a bunch of other professionals and published a research paper. It's called The Developmental Stages of the Human Intestinal Parasite. VOLINSKY and Gubarev sent samples. So they went on this big, huge research project on this. They wanted to learn more about this ropeworm, so they sent DNA samples to this one laboratory that does DNA sequencing. There's one of them on parasites. They sent it in. The results were inconclusive. What they found was that this DNA was 90% unknown parasite and 10% human DNA. Okay? So they were like, okay, well, can we have the sequence back so we can start a genome project on it, so we can get it labeled as a parasite? They said no. They will not release the DNA sequence. Okay, does everybody understand the depths of that? They will not release the DNA sequence of that parasite. Dr. Gubarev's findings, these are his findings about the ropeworm. Matures in 5 different stages. Okay, so the first stage, it's a jelly flat-like structure that forms in your body, very mucousy. Second stage forms more structure with viscous mucus, and it starts to form bubbles, which we'll talk about in a minute. The third stage, the head starts to form with a rope-like structure, and this is called the bush phase because the head's kind of like it kind of looks like a bush where it's starting to form. And then, but think of an embryo, right? Like as it starts forming. That's what this, it's a blob, right? And it starts forming. This is what's happening. The fourth stage, the worm body forms and the head contains suction cups and 4 spikes on the head. They've been able to locate this. And the fifth stage, by the fifth stage, it's 45 to 50 years old. So that's how long it takes for it to develop to that stage inside of you. And I think several of you have eliminated probably the 30, 40-year-old version of it, right? Pretty good. Well formed. Ropeworms have a cellular structure and microchannels where they can transfer nutrients, which there are pictures in those research papers that I posted. There are pictures of the actual cellular makeup of it. Okay, ropeworms have no nervous system or reproductive system like a starfish doesn't, right? So they can asexual. ropeworms can move through the fusion of air bubbles, which create gas and expels toxins. So they create this gas inside of you, but it's also toxic gas. But that's how they move, is they create these air bubbles. Ropeworm heads suction to the intestinal tract where they can leach blood and release toxins. So what Gubarev said is that they get inside of you and then they just start sucking your blood, but as they suck the blood, toxins get released into the bloodstream. Okay, so Gubarev believes this is the cause of most gallbladder issues because your bile is really old red blood cells that the liver recycles, okay, like bilirubin, broken down red blood cells. So if you have toxic blood from this parasite putting toxins into you, it's going to create thick, viscous bile, which is going to form stones more easily. Scientists have detected blood inside the body of the ropeworm. This is a ropeworm. This is more like an adult. This was a colonyx that they did on someone. And so they pulled the ropeworm out, and this is the head of the ropeworm. So there was blood. So it was actually leaching out blood as they were doing the colonyx. And they pulled it out, the suction. So this is the head where it was pulling the blood out. Okay, so here's the bubbles. And you can see more of the bubbles kind of in through here. But there's the bubbles that it creates. It creates a lot of mucus, a lot of bubbles. So blood and ropeworms. They took cadavers and they got in their guts and found ropeworms in their gut. Took apart the ropeworms and found human blood inside the ropeworm where there was no blood on the outside of the worm. Okay, so what's that tell you? They're sucking, they're leaching. Fecal stones and sacs. So those little white specks over there, that is, they're stones. So they create stones. So down here at the very bottom, can you guys see that? And over at this far side here, that's the sac. And that's where their fecal stones are. Basically their poop is held in that little sac. Okay, and so those sacs can bust open and the stones will come out in your stool and you will see them and they will look like little sesame seed type stones. And usually they bust open, but in some cases they don't, which I'm going to show you. This is my client. This is an actual client of mine. It's on the Facebook group. Look at that. That is just like that. So she had one intact. That one looks pretty intact too down there. This is stage 3 of maturity for the ropeworms. That's what they look like. And this is stage 5 of maturity. And they can be rather large. This woman was having some brain symptoms going on. They did an MRI on her, found she had a tumor, thought she had cancer. So they went in to operate and the tumor popped open and it was a parasite. Okay, so that's it right there. She's fine, no cancer. That's a hookworm. Okay, this is getting pretty graphic now. The next few will be pretty graphic. So that's a hookworm. They can go in the eyes. Hookworms can go anywhere. So now we're going to get into kind of like emotional stuff with parasites, right? Because I always cover emotions because emotions are a part of our body, right? Body, mind, spirit. So stay away from lazy parasites who perch on you just to satisfy their needs. They do not come to alleviate your burdens. Hence, their mission is to distract, detract, and extract and make you live in abject poverty. Okay, so we're talking about people right now, right? So a lot of people that have parasites are prone to those people that need something from them. And you're prone, I should say, you're prone to the relationship. And if they have parasites too, which if 90% of Americans have them, everybody's got them, right? But you're prone to that parasitic codependent relationship, right? So that's something to think about when you start doing these parasite detoxes. You can lose friends from it because you kind of start waking up. You're not in the trance of the parasite anymore. Parasites and emotions. Louise Hay, who owned Hay House Publishing, a gigantic metaphysical publishing company. I don't know if you guys have heard of it before. She's an amazing woman, wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life. Talks about how emotions affect our physical being. And she linked physical disorders and diseases to specific emotions. So for parasites, she suggests that the emotional cause of parasites are you're giving your power to others, letting them take your life and live off of you. Okay, that doesn't mean you're paying their bills. It means you're giving them your energy. They're living off your energy. Okay, they don't have a lot themselves, so they're living off yours. Parasite remodeling. Parasites are remodelers. When a parasite inhabits your body, it immediately starts a renovation process. They start small, but they don't stop. Parasites make changes to your neurotransmitters to help protect them. Our neurotransmitters make them active, and if they are overly active, your immune system will take notice. The altering of these neurotransmitters can make you feel miserable and make you do strange and unhealthy things. Parasites can create biofilms, which is like camouflage for them. So they create a lot of mucus and a thick mucousy layer that they can hide in from the immune system, camouflaging them from the immune system. So they do all of this when they're inside you. They start remodeling. Oh, we're going to send your body messages to not pump this transmitter or pump this neurotransmitter, and we're going to make this biofilm here, and we're going to make it nice and comfy for us. So let's talk about the neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitting, hacking your brain through your gut. That's what they're doing, okay? So acetylcholine, that is one of your main neurotransmitters. You don't hear about that one very much, do you? Acetylcholine. You hear a lot about GABA or serotonin, right? Dopamine, but not acetylcholine. It is food for your parasite. So it's your main neurotransmitter for your parasympathetic system, your rest and relax system. So when you get that calm, acetylcholine, okay? So parasites feed on it, leaving you deficient. And how many feel more like they're in sympathetic nervous system, which is fight and flight nervous system, right? So acetylcholine deficiencies also make your blood thinner, which is perfect for them to suck more blood when it's thin. Acetylcholine helps to move your bowels. Lowered amounts cause constipation. Lowered acetylcholine creates brain fog, lowered REM sleep, inflammation, and muscle weakness. So GABA. GABA is the paralyzer. It paralyzes parasites. So GABA makes you feel calm and relaxes your mind. It promotes good digestion and reduces brain inflammation. So another calming neurotransmitter. But GABA paralyzes parasites. So they release chemicals to lower your GABA. And so low GABA can cause panic attacks, insomnia, depression, ADD and ADHD, lack of empathy, addictive behaviors, and low stomach acid. Okay, serotonin. This is their breed and feed. This is their breed and feed. So 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut. This is like their party juice right here. Okay, they like to breed and feed in this. It makes you happy, it regulates your sleep, controls your appetite, promotes good intestinal health, and aids in learning and memory. Parasites have serotonin receptors and they seek it out. So they have the receptors to seek out serotonin. Serotonin enhances their abilities to eat, reproduce, and be more free. So that's why we do this during the full moon, because that's when your serotonin levels are really high, is during the light, because we get that bright, that light, right? That makes you produce more serotonin. And that's when they become active. So I started talking about this to some of my other clients who are in the medical field, like a lot of the nurses and other people, and they're like, oh yeah, that's why everything goes haywire at the hospital or at the police station or whatever. It's because everybody's parasites are all acting up. They're having a party. They're getting drunk on serotonin, right? So low serotonin causes carb cravings, anger and aggression, pessimism, low self-esteem, insomnia, and increased pain. Lots of insomnia, right? Lots of problems with sleep issues. Parasites are also nocturnal. So they're awake all night long, keeping you awake. Dopamine is their camouflage. So it affects motivation levels and reward-seeking behaviors. You guys have heard about dopamine, right? Dopamine slows your immune system. Did you guys know that? Dopamine slows your immune system down. So parasites will raise your dopamine levels to lower your immune function. Crazy, isn't it? They'll raise your reward system for you, so your immune system lowers, helping them to go unnoticed. So it's their camouflage. You need dopamine, but too much is associated with aggression and agitation. It's just like too much testosterone, right? Or too much estrogen. Associated with aggression, agitation, inability to deal with stress, insomnia, again, constipation, anxiety, and depression. Too much dopamine also has been associated with bipolar disorder. What's your line of defense? Okay, Stomach acid, digestive enzymes, bile, and bitter herbs. They don't like bitter herbs. So bitter herbs will get into your bloodstream and then they drink the blood and they don't like it. That's what kills them. Stomach acid is your first, right? Or actually chewing your food is the first, right? So no one does a good job of that. Not even me. But like you should be chewing your food like, what is it, like 60 to 100 times, right? Digestive enzymes, bile, okay? So that's like acid on the parasites because it breaks them down. What do enzymes do? They break down protein, right? So it starts breaking down their body. They don't like it. Chewing your food we just talked about, and your own natural immune system should be fighting them off, right? And then annual detoxes. Okay, so this is over time. This is actually a video if you guys want to watch it on. It's like literally a 15-second video, so I didn't put it up here, but it happens over about 5 seconds. This is your immune cells attacking a parasite. It happens really, really quickly, but the thing is your immune system has to be alert. And these guys are stealthy. Look it up. Parasites want to live. They want to live in you and they know how to do it. They're very stealthy. So when the immune system takes notice, it can fight it. So you don't have to be terrified because your immune cells will fight it. But over time, if one sneaks past and then you have babies, a couple sneak past and you have babies, then that's where you end up with issues. This is the Cell Core Para Kit. This is what is making everyone eliminate these parasites, okay? Like nothing I've ever seen before in my entire life. It was produced by Dr. Todd Watts. He's a chiropractor in Idaho and he's a biochemist and he specializes in pathogens. Lyme disease is one of his big ones. They created a blend of herbs, humic and fulvic acid, and mimosa pudica. Common herbs, neem, clove, vidanga, that kills round worms, sage, black walnut, which is kind of a well-known parasite killer, holy basil, and thyme. This one is the one that's really pulling them out. Okay, so that forms, it's like a seed and it forms a thick jelly substance, and that thick jelly substance just basically grabs on and pulls stuff out of your intestine. We're using Mother Nature to help fight Mother Nature, but this is how it was intended. This is my recommendations. This is what everyone has been doing. So there's a Para 1, Para 2, Para 3, and then a biotoxin binder that helps pull out other debris, toxins, and stuff. Okay, so Para 3 is an herbal. Those are drops. So you do these combo together. And then these ones, you gotta hit them when they're partying, right? So right before bed, and then right when you wake up, because they're nocturnal. So that's why you take those and those. This is the intermediate phase. Now, I know there have been a lot of questions. I think, Anne, you had a question about this. There have been a lot of questions because you get on the Cell Core website and they're like, okay, do this for 3 days, and then you can do 5 days, and then you can do 7 days, right? Okay, that's because there's no practitioner to help you. There's no one you can ask questions to, really. They don't want you calling them. And a lot of people will experience some die-off symptoms and panic. So they want you to go Sesame Street, right? I don't want you to go Sesame Street. I want you to go pretty good, at a pretty good pace, okay? I'm not gonna give you the big time version, which there's a bigger one than this. I'm gonna give you the medium, okay? Because I want you to see results pretty quickly. The full moon eviction. This is what we talked about. During the full moon, your serotonin levels are high. Parasites love serotonin, they become active. They're nocturnal, so you gotta take your AM and PM doses. Okay, I know some of you out there will come in and you'll tell on yourselves, I'm really bad at that PM dose. But this is the thing, you just have to get that in your head. Like, this is when I gotta do it. I read a blog this gal wrote, and she had been all over the country. She had some symptoms. All these natural health practitioners all over the country. They all told her you have parasites, would give her a few things and send her on her way. She never did any of it. She'd do it for a couple days and then stop. So she went and saw a psychic in Santa Fe, and the psychic gave her a reading. Then at the end she said, by the way, you have parasite infestation. And the woman goes, I know, I've been told that, I'm just too tired. And the psychic looked at her and she said, that's your parasite talking. And she went, oh, so she went back. And she did the mimosa pudica, actually. That was one of the things she was recommended, and then had her process there. So The parasites can talk. They can make you think things. Remember your neurotransmitters. So the 15 days, at the end, we reassess you. We just check you, make sure, you know, I do muscle testing. So it'll be like muscle test to make sure we got everything. Most people are seeing now, they're well into it, that they're not eliminating. I have a gentleman doing it. He's not in the group, but his wife came in today and said that he's no longer seeing stuff in his stools. He did not believe any of that, by the way. He was like he wasn't like against it, but he was like, I don't, you know. But he was like, oh yeah, there was stuff. So he's not now, he's into it. I think he's got a couple days left and he's not seeing anything now. So I think we're done. Some people may need 2 rounds if they have eggs hatch out. Diet recommendations. That was a big one, everyone. I was surprised. And it's weird because I'm a nutritional therapist and, you know, I'm always about the herbs, I guess. But the diet is a big part of it. So you want to avoid sugar, dairy, and gluten is what I tell people. Just avoid those things. This kit will wipe it out of you. You don't have to overthink it. It will really just take care of it. Of course, I don't want you eating processed crap. Just avoid those things as much as possible. Eat 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. Everyone thinks they're doing this. They're usually not. Look at it and make sure you're getting that because you want to eliminate it. You don't want to be constipated. And that's what one of the things in our group, one of the rules is if you're not going every day, we need to know about it because we have things to help you to go. But we want you getting it out. And drink approximately 100 ounces of water per day because you're going to be flushing toxins. So try to get to the upper end. I know a lot of people drink a cup of coffee or 2 a day, so that's why I figure in 100 ounces. Lifestyle recommendations, exercise for 15 minutes twice daily. That just gets your blood pumping, right? You want to move your blood around if there's toxins in it. It's like old wash rag, right? If you leave it bunched up in the sink, it gets all moldy and yucky, right? You want to air it out. So that's what you're doing. You're aerating your body. And then sauna if you want. Like I love it. So I go in there and sweat it out. Take your normal supplements. Totally fine to take just your regular supplements that you've been taking. Nothing will interfere. Okay? That's it. We didn't put an ending slide, honey.